Does God exist? That question sits quietly behind nearly everything, behind politics, behind ethics, behind how people raise their children, and behind how they face death. It's the kind of question that looks like it belongs in a philosophy class or a dusty old book, but it shows up in hospital rooms, in wars, in courtrooms, and in conversations between people who just want to understand the world. The majority of people alive today still believe in some form of God. Many don't just believe, they're certain. They may never have questioned it. But when you do ask, really ask, the idea starts to unravel in very quiet ways. Start with something simple. What does it even mean to say God exists? The word God isn't one idea. In some cultures, it's a single, all-powerful being. In others, it's a collection of divine forces. Sometimes it's a personal father figure who listens to prayers. Other times it's a vague force of nature. If a word can mean almost anything, how do we even begin to answer the question? But let's take the most common definition, the one most people in the Western world think of. A conscious, intelligent, all-powerful being who created the universe and watches over it. If that kind of being exists, there should be evidence, just like with anything else that exists. Not proof in some cosmic sense, but something observable. Some say the existence of the universe is the proof. The universe exists, therefore someone must have made it. But that idea doesn't actually explain anything. If everything needs
Ron,
a
I'm gonna put the
creator,
link in the chat.
then who created God? If God just exists without a cause, then we've just moved the mystery one level higher. Saying God did it is like answering a question with a different question and pretending that counts as an answer. Others point to complexity. Look at the human eye, look at DNA, look at how perfectly tuned the laws of physics seem to be. But complexity doesn't mean design. Snowflakes are complex, so are crystals, so are weather patterns. Complexity is a product of rules and time, not intent. Evolution through natural selection is one of the most powerful explanations we've ever discovered. It takes small changes over long periods and produces forms that seem perfectly designed. But they're not perfect. The human spine is a disaster of engineering. The laryngeal nerve in a giraffe travels 15 feet when it only needs to travel a few inches. These aren't the choices of an intelligent designer. They're the leftover scaffolding of blind, slow change. Nature doesn't build with blueprints, it builds with leftovers. Some say morality points to God, that we have a sense of right and wrong, so someone must have given it to us. But morality isn't universal. What people consider right and wrong changes over time, culture, and circumstance. There were times when slavery was moral, when burning women for witchcraft was justice. Today, we find those ideas horrific. Our moral compass is clearly shaped by environment, empathy, and consequence. It changes when our understanding grows. People don't act morally because of divine reward or punishment. They act morally when they can feel the consequences of their actions, when they empathize with someone else, when they live in societies where cooperation is more beneficial than violence. Morality isn't dropped into us from above. It's something we build together. Others look to religious texts, the Bible, the Quran, the Vedas. They say these are the words of God. But these texts were written by people, not in the metaphorical sense. They were literally written down by human hands in specific languages at specific times in history, shaped by the values and knowledge of those times. They contain contradictions, myths, rules about owning slaves, and beliefs about the structure of the cosmos that have since been proven false. If these were the words of a divine being, it raises questions. Why so much violence? Why so much tribalism? Why rules about shellfish and mixed fabrics, but none about washing hands before surgery or boiling water to kill bacteria? Why so much silence about the world as we know it now? Some argue that belief in God helps people feel better, that it gives life purpose, that it comforts those in grief. But comfort doesn't make something true. A child may feel comforted by the belief in monsters under the bed being kept away by a nightlight. That doesn't make the monsters real. And people find purpose in all kinds of ways, through art, relationships, curiosity, and creation. The truth is, the universe doesn't owe us comfort, it doesn't owe us meaning, but that doesn't make it cold or hopeless. It makes it ours to define. It means meaning is something we create, not something we're handed. And that's powerful. Statistically, belief in God is declining in many parts of the world. In the US, belief is still common, but the number of people identifying as nones, having no religious affiliation, has been rising steadily. In Scandinavia, Japan, the Czech Republic, and much of Western Europe, atheism or agnosticism is far more common. And these aren't societies collapsing into chaos. In many cases, they have lower crime, higher education, better healthcare, and stronger social safety nets. It turns out, morality and progress don't need religion, they need compassion, education, and cooperation. People often say science can't answer everything, that it deals with how, not why. But the why assumes a kind of intentional structure, like someone planned it all out in advance. That's a human instinct, to look for agency. A rustling in the bushes means a predator, a shadow on the wall might be a person. Our brains evolved to detect intention because it helps us survive. We're pattern seekers. And sometimes we find patterns where there are none. The idea that lightning was thrown by a god made perfect sense once. The idea that sickness came from sin seemed reasonable without a microscope. But as we learned more, the gaps that gods used to fill started closing. We don't pray to rain gods anymore because we understand how weather works. We don't exorcise demons from epileptics because we know about the brain. The history of religion is the history of explanation. When we didn't know, we believed. And as we learned, we let go. But some beliefs are sticky, especially the ones tied to identity, community, and tradition. Believing in God isn't just about a claim, it's about belonging. Still, even when you strip away tradition, there's something about the question that lingers, because people don't just want to know how the universe began. They want to know why they suffer, why bad things happen to good people, why children get cancer, why someone can live their life with kindness and still lose everything in a fire or flood or war. This is where the idea of God becomes harder to hold on to. If God is all powerful and all loving, why is the world so broken? People say it's free will, that suffering is the price of freedom, but natural disasters don't care about free will. Bacteria don't target people based on their choices. Genetic mutations that cause disease happen without intention. It's chaos, it's nature, it's indifferent. Others say suffering builds character, that it teaches us lessons, but that turns tragedy into a test. And who decides the curriculum? Who benefits from the suffering of a
All right. Peace, family. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? We got brother Ron Burkins in the building. He decided to show up today as he promised, and we were going to have this discussion about God existing today. So Ron Burkins, you are in the building. Give a shout out to everybody in the building.
Hey, hello everybody. Hey, this is Ron Burkins. Hey, thanks, Chris. How you doing? Appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion with you.
I'm happy to give it. So, do you have your own channel?
No, I don't. No.
Okay, you don't. What makes you believe that God exists, if you don't mind me asking? What makes you think that God exists?
Well, let me clarify. I believe that the universe has a creator.
The universe has a creator.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, I believe in intelligent design, not necessarily in a God, meaning a deity that has to be worshipped or prayed to.
Okay.
Have to offer sacrifice or anything like that.
Okay. So what is intelligent? What is intelligent design?
So it means that fundamentally, the universe was created in an intelligent manner. That it has all the attributes of intelligence, of a design from an intelligence. So that's basically what it means. That you have what looks like a design, and the design appears to be intelligent or came from an intelligent mind. Let's say.
What if the design is poor?
Well, I mean, poor designs can happen in any design. Any flaw can happen in any design. So does not necessarily negate uh, the premise of an intelligent designer.
Why not?
Like I said, any design, you can take an automobile or an airplane, anything that humans design can certainly have flaws, right? You would agree with that, right?
Yes, I do. But
So
we're talking about the creator of the universe, in which you claim it to be an intelligent designer. So you're saying that there was something intelligent that designed humanity itself, and created humanity and created everything in the universe, right?
yeah, I do believe that the systems that are used to do this creation, whether that's evolution or um, through natural selection, those types of things,
Natural
will always.
selection is scientific.
Yeah. Again, my concept of intelligent design is that uh, the all of the physical laws of the universe, the as well as evolution, all were created by this uh, intelligence, this designer per se, if you want to
Mhm,
say that.
mhm.
And through the use of evolution,
Shout out to
yeah,
Melvin. Shout out to Melvin in the audience. Keep going, Ron. I'm sorry.
through the use of evolution, yeah, there are going to be some flaws, if you will.
Okay. Okay, so we're
So,
talking about intelligent design here, right?
correct.
I wanna give a Wikipedia definition of it because they pull from different sources here. Just tell me if you
Mhm.
agree with this. Um, Intelligent design is a pseudo-scientific argument for the existence of God,
Yeah.
presented by its proponents as a quote unquote evidence-based scientific theory about life's origins. Proponents claim that certain features, quote, of the universe and of living things are best explained by an intelligent cause, not an undirected process such as natural selection. Now, I know you mentioned natural selection within this, but natural selection is scientific. It has nothing to do with intelligent design.
Yeah.
We can prove natural selection through
Mhm.
something such as evolution.
Mhm.
Um, our genetic ancestors, what I just got off the phone with a bunch of Christians about genetic ancestries, genetic splits, etc. We can prove intelligent design through the process of scientific evaluation. So therefore, there's no concept needed. When you say intelligent design, does your intelligent designer have intent, and how do you prove its intent?
No, the way I um, practice intelligent design is that there is no intent, there is no purpose. As I mentioned before, uh,
I'm
the
sorry,
intelligent,
but
but
intelligent design designed the earth, designed everything in the universe. What do you mean there's no intent?
yeah, there's no intent per the definition that you gave. What I'm saying is that um, the way I understand, or the way I subscribe to intelligent design, is that
The way you subscribe.
yeah. That's what I'm talking about from my
Okay,
perspective.
yeah, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
yeah. So it certainly differs from the definition that you just read. And so again, there's no God per se. There's no deity that brings life into, or the universe into being. There is an intelligence that uses the laws of physics, the laws of quantum mechanics, evolution, that caused all these things to happen. So so from my perspective, the designer does not break any of the laws of physics or evolution. The theories thereof does not break those. Other words, if it did, then that would just be a god of the gaps, right?
Yes, but what I'm trying
And I
to
have no
shift you
god
to
of the
do
gaps.
is it seems like you're more reliant on irreducible complexity, and rather than stick to the scientific data. I'm just a little
Yeah,
confused on what
yeah.
you're
There's
proposing.
there's certainly
You're saying
there's
this is
certainly
your concept here,
yes.
and you tell me it's your concept here, but then you talk about something such as quantum physics agreeing with your concept.
Yes, because again, I draw a lot of my understanding of of the universe, how the universe started
You draw.
from. Yeah. Let me make this point.
Yeah, I'm gonna
You've
let you
heard of
make your point.
yeah
I'm
yeah
just repeating it so you can hear it, so my audience can understand where you're coming from here.
yeah. Of course, it's coming from my understanding, based on
Okay.
my reading, based on my readings and the things that I subscribe to. So you've heard of Donald Hoffman before, right?
I've heard of Donald Hoffman. Yes, you've come on here and you spoke about Donald Hoffman.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he has a theory of fusions of consciousness, where he basically says that our reality that consciousness actually resides outside of reality, and that our reality uh, is basically developed from this consciousness.
No.
And
No.
so he has what he calls conscious agents,
Okay.
and his conscious agents, they fuse together to develop everything that we see in reality.
Okay. So let me ask you a question right there, based on your consciousness argument here. Are you saying that the intelligent designer is in fact just a form of consciousness?
I'm saying ultimately, yes. Ultimately, it is
Okay. So
consciousness.
how do
Ultimately,
Okay, so on top of, okay, fine, right? Because once again, this is irreducible complexity. This is one of those irreducible complexity arguments that I hear a lot from intelligent design. My question to you is, what would be the scientific criteria to prove that?
yeah. Again, drawing from Hoffman's work, specifically his paper of fusion of consciousness, he uses a mathematical model
A
to
mathematical model.
yeah to develop the ideas around consciousness. Again, these conscious agents. It's based off of mathematical theorems. That's his theory is basically mathematical at the moment, to show how these conscious agents develop and how they can work together to, again, based on his research, he and his team's research, they theorize that these conscious agents can fuse together to develop um, everything that we see in reality. Everything from the quantum level on up to the macro, to the universe. That in fact everything started from what's typically called the Big Bang, based on these
I'm
high
sorry,
order.
the Big Bang Theory does not rely on
Yeah,
intelligent design. It does not teach intelligent design either.
I understand. I'm just saying what Hoffman's paper is basically saying, which I subscribe to.
Yeah, but
That
Hoffman got that wrong then, because the Big Bang does not rely on any intelligent design.
no,
If he's creating
so
a concept, or if he's creating a concept based on intelligent design, then he cannot use quantum
yeah,
physics nor the Big Bang, because the Big Bang and quantum physics relies on not history, but scientific inquiry, not on his own concepts and his own mathematical formulas.
but this is the reason that he's using mathematics and again science to prove this, because he understands that, and I agree with him, that you have to use science. You have to be able to prove that these conscious agents exist. And so he starts with the premise
Conscious
that
agents. What do you mean? Can you explain that? You said that conscious agents exist as it
yeah,
pertains to what, intelligent design?
yes, that's what
Can
that's
you
what
provide us with something that we can look at that sees, because quantum physics literally observes things on a atomic and subatomic level, and they have seen, yes, they do see forms of consciousness in particles, but that's based on what we're observing, and they haven't identified any intelligent design.
yeah, I understand. So again, that's why I'm drawing on Hoffman's work.
You're drawing on,
So
so, and a
yeah,
field, so this is a
but
field of
let's
authority.
let's you and I both agree on this point. Let's
Okay.
let's agree on this point that if you if you wind the clock backwards,
Melvin,
so
send that and place that in the back chat, Melvin, please. Go
yeah, so
ahead.
if you wind the clock backwards all the way to the beginning of time, we both agree that our laws of physics all break down at the Planck scale, right?
Okay.
We agree with that, right?
Okay. I don't
Right.
agree with it, but I'm just listening to you. Go ahead. You're making a claim of intelligent design. Go ahead.
Yeah, at at 10 to the minus 33 centimeters, and at 10 to the minus 44 seconds, beyond that, smaller than that, our laws of physics break down. I mean, that's a known truism.
God math now. We're dealing with God math here. Go
No, no,
ahead.
no, no. This is physics.
Okay.
This is quantum physics, not
Yes,
God
but
math.
quantum physics, here, let me explain this again. Quantum physics does not prove God exists, and it doesn't prove that God does exist.
No.
Quantum physics is the study of particles on a subatomic and atomic level. That's all it does.
Again, I'm trying to make the point that at these tiny scales called Planck scales, that our laws of physics break down, and this is where Hoffman comes in. Hoffman says that, okay, so if it breaks down at it has a certain limit, and then so what goes before those limits? And so he posits that it's consciousness. The consciousness, that's the beginning of his theory, and that's why I subscribe to it. That space time is only good for you up to the Planck scale. Beyond the Planck scale, it's inoperable. It has no use. It makes no sense anymore.
Okay, so I want to go back here. Let's go back here to your intelligent designer here. How do you prove that there is an intelligent designer? What can we observe scientifically that proves that there is an intelligent designer? You're saying that in a singular form. How do we prove, what data can we see that's observable that proves an intelligent designer?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's a question that people like myself, and I would say I'm not putting myself on the level of Donald Hoffman, but people who posit and try to find things outside of space time struggle with, because within this realm of reality, if we say that the creation of reality is outside of space time, then how can you find something within space time that points to that? Now, a lot of
Okay, well, let's stop right there. Are you saying that the intelligent designer exists outside of space and time?
I'm saying that the consciousness that created space time exists outside of space time.
Okay, so is this consciousness the intelligent designer is what I'm asking you now?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, cool. So how does something that exists outside space and time create space and time?
This is what Hoffman's work is about.
Here, let me give you. You keep saying Hoffman, but I'm talking
Yeah,
to
that's
you.
because it's what I believe. I subscribe to what he's saying, so I'm trying to put it in.
Okay, but there's a
in his
weakness in
language.
the argument here, because
Why?
when we talk about something existing outside space and time, it
Yes.
literally will sit there and use natural selection in trying to define its own creation. If intelligent design exists, there would be no need for natural selection, nor there would be no need for any type of evolution, because intelligent design would just its intent would be to design something intelligently. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would agree that if you use that definition, but the definition that I use is that,
Okay, yeah. How are you
I've stated
defining it? I'm sorry.
I've stated it before, is that the consciousness that resides outside of reality created this reality, also created all the
How do
laws
you
of
know
physics.
consciousness exists outside of
Well,
time and reality, time and space?
yeah, that's what I posit. That's the hypothesis that I start with, as well as what Hoffman
Then
starts
how do you
with.
prove that hypothesis
Because
using the scientific theory? Has it been
yeah,
proven? Has it been observed? Has it been tested?
no, first you have to start with a theory, and so
A
that's what his
theory?
theory. Yeah, he
I
starts
know how
with
the scientific, yes, I know how the scientific theory
yeah,
works. But what
yeah.
I'm asking you here is, if you're saying that consciousness exists outside of time and space, how do you first prove that using the scientific theory?
No, for things that exist outside of for this consciousness that exists outside of that I'm proposing, that exists outside of time and space. First, you have to start with some type of abstraction. That first abstraction would be mathematics, right? Math is
Mathematics.
Yeah, so it's an abstraction. This is how Hoffman starts his investigation into this, is through mathematical modeling. So I agree with that. And so now,
Mathematical model, but it fails right there. I
okay,
have an here. Can I read this to you? I pulled an article called "The Flaws of Intelligent Design" just so we can follow it together. Is
hmm
it okay?
that's fine.
Okay, cool. And I wanted to start right here at mathematicians because you mentioned math,
Hmm.
or as I like to call it, God math, right? And it says
Hmm.
mathematicians are similarly critical of intelligent design's mathematical arguments against evolution, which rely on the excess of subjective calculations, manipulation of numbers, and misrepresentations of evolutionary models. This is what I was bringing up here. Moreover, scientists point out that while intelligent design breaks some new ground, it far too often falls back on long debunked arguments plucked straight from quote unquote creation science, such as the claim that evolution can only happen within species or an exaggerated emphasis on gaps in the fossil record. Now, I'm not necessarily speaking to you on evolution yet, but I'm speaking to you on these mathematical models that exist within Hoffman's claims or in your claims here. And that's why the first thing I asked you about when you came on here is, what is your definition of intelligent design? Can you define it for the audience as well as myself? I'm going to ask you that again.
Yeah, I thought I defined it. So
yeah, read it because more people are coming in. So let's reset the argument here. And if you can you define
yeah, I'll
what
I'll I'll,
intelligent
I'll
design?
define it. Yeah, I'll
Yes.
read it. I'll define it again. But also, I want to deal with this whole discussion around mathematics, if I can. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So my definition of intelligent
Your
design is that.
definition? No, I need the definition. If you're going to use Matt Hoffman's
Yeah,
work, why aren't you
you've
using
read
Hoffman's?
you've read the
Yes, but why
definition.
aren't you using Hoffman's definition since you're using his work?
Hoffman. Uh, his idea is around consciousness of fusion. He does not specifically talk about intelligent design. I'm saying I'm using his work, meaning that consciousness resides outside of reality, and that consciousness, and that all of our reality came from that consciousness. It was built from that consciousness.
How can
I'm using his
consciousness
work.
exist outside of reality when the consciousness that we have today, it can only be defined within this reality? That's what I'm
Again,
not understanding. How do you prove
I
consciousness
understand.
is
I
outside
understand.
of this reality?
I understand. Again, that's why I have to keep going back to Hoffman's paper. His
Hoffman's
paper,
view.
yeah, his paperwork on the fusion of consciousness. He states that within consciousness there are these conscious agents, and these conscious
Okay.
agents, they fuse together to create everything that we see within reality, everything that
And
we
what's
deal
the,
with.
so that's
uh,
just through conscious. So you're, once again, it goes back into a being then. Am I correct?
I'm saying I would not describe consciousness as a being. I describe it as conscious, like saying, is your consciousness a being? It's consciousness.
Yes,
In other words,
I'm essentially, yes, it is. I'm a
yeah,
sentient being. I have a
yeah,
consciousness that can be
yeah,
altered. I have a
yeah.
consciousness that can be manipulated by
No,
different teachings, such as Hoffman's or the Bible or
yeah,
Islam or
yeah,
Hinduism or the
yeah, yeah.
culture that I participate in. My consciousness can be altered. When you talk about this consciousness that exists outside of time and space, that's no different than the consciousness that exists within the biblical network or works, or within the Muslim work. They all speak of this divine consciousness or this divine being that exists outside of time and space. I
Yeah.
don't understand those arguments.
No, of course, the religious um, understanding of their deities, they all would say that their deities exist outside of time and space, right?
So it would
They
be,
all,
so it's a form of intelligent design. It's a creationist model.
no, it's not, because they say that evolution does not exist, right? They say that the Earth was created in, at least from the Christian models, created in 6 literal days. They say that the Earth was literally flooded by a worldwide catastrophe.
It's
There's
all
nothing like
pseudo if you
this.
think about it. If
There's,
you
there,
really
there's
think
nothing.
about it, though, you're saying you're making these arguments against Christianity and say, well, what they say is stupid, or look at
No,
what they say about the Earth being created in 6 days.
that's what I'm saying.
Listen
But
to what
this,
you're saying. You're saying consciousness exists outside of time and space.
but
But
I'm trying to give
there's
you
an
a framework for
intent.
why.
Hold
I'm trying
on.
to give you
Here, listen for
a
a second.
mathematical.
Hold on. Listen for a second.
Hmm.
All right. You're saying that consciousness, we're going to stay right here. You're saying that consciousness exists outside of time and space. And when we start talking about this consciousness, you said there was an intent there. I mean, excuse me, within that consciousness, there was an intent to
No,
create.
I know I didn't say that. I said there was no purpose. There was no
Wait a
intent.
minute.
There
Wait
was
a
no
minute. So
purpose.
Wait a minute. So that's intelligent design. The
No,
intent, the intent behind intelligence is to create something.
but Chris, I just told you what I said that if you go with the
How are you
definition that you read,
defining? Then it's
I
not
just read it.
intelligent. Okay. Then how is it intelligent if it's no intent behind it?
No, because the consciousness that we're talking about that resides outside of space and time via these conscious elements created everything that we see within reality, including evolution. So evolution is the is a collection of these conscious agents creating this whole idea around evolution, which we all say is where we came from, right?
Okay. There's nothing else in science. There's no intelligent design within science. You're trying to go to evolution, right? You got genetic drifting. You got so many different forms of evolution that happen over millions and millions of years, right? Especially
Yeah.
with mammals, eukaryotic beings, prokaryotic beings. I can go on and on about that. And we have science that teaches us what happened. But when you start talking about consciousness and consciousness that exists within sentient beings on Earth versus this super conscious being that had an intent to create something, because if you're creating something, that's intent. That means it wanted to create something. The consciousness wanted to create something on this earth. But every time I keep you there, you keep going back to scientific theories that have been proven and or disproven. We're dealing with the intelligent design that you said had no intent that designed everything in this earth, in this universe here. That's where I'm confused here. That's the flaw of your argument.
And it's clear that I'm not making myself well understood in this discussion. So let me try again.
Sure.
So again, as I mentioned before, I'm pulling my ideas and concepts, a lot of my ideas and concepts, from Donald Hoffman's paperwork on his theory on the fusions of consciousness. That's his theory, right? The theory starts with that everything that we know in our reality breaks down at Planck scale. So, and you and I, we just said that we agree on that, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I don't. No.
You don't agree with that?
I don't agree with anything that you have to
physics.
say. You're making a claim, and it sounds somewhat exaggerated at this point. So I cannot agree with you scientifically.
Okay,
No.
but that's fundamental physics.
Yes, thank you. That's fundamental physics.
Yeah.
I can't agree with you until your claims are not as exaggerated and they become more scientific.
No, Chris, this is fundamental physics that the laws of physics break down at Planck scale.
Yes, I know that.
Right.
Yes,
That's
I'm not arguing there. No, I'm not arguing there.
Okay. So we both.
But I'm not a physicist. But let me let everybody know I'm not a physicist either. I'm not a quantum physicist either. No.
Yeah. Neither am I a physicist. I'm not a quantum physicist or anything like that either. I'm just saying that is that's incontrovertible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything breaks down, and so and this is what I told you before. This is where Hoffman comes in, and this is what I agree with him.
Do you have the source that we can share?
I don't have it pulled up, but again, it's his paper. It's online and it's free. It's called The Fusions of Consciousness.
Okay.
So he says that everything breaks down at the Planck scales. That's known throughout the scientific world.
Okay.
And so he says that at that point, you can throw everything that we know about physics and science and evolution, all this stuff, and throw it out the window. So he says, okay, so what's next? What happens? How did all this stuff start? And so he posits that it was from consciousness.
That means it's true.
Yeah, he states.
No, I asked you if he's positing something. Does that mean it's true?
No, it doesn't mean that it's true. But like all theories, you have to start with something, right?
Yes, with all theories, yes, and that's why there's a scientific method.
Exactly.
What scientific method does he use to prove these theories correct?
And that's what he's starting with, this mathematical model.
This mathematical model. Okay, God of the math. Okay,
it's not God of the math.
It is.
It's not God of the math. His mathematical model.
Okay.
Is developed to show these conscious agents come about, and how they can fuse together to give us reality. They can
Okay,
give
so
us.
let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. You're going into physics, right?
No, I'm not going into physics. I'm going to his mathematical model. Physics, I said
Okay,
that everything
right.
breaks down.
Okay, okay. Listen to what I'm about to read to you here, right? Because we're talking about scientific theory here. This is in the same paper here on the flaws of intelligent design. All
Okay.
right. All right. This is a new argument here. All right. And it says, in order to be valid, a scientific theory must unite a broad range of observations, inferences, and facts under a detailed explanation, which makes predictions about the outcomes of future experiments and observations. All theories have gaps which invite further investigation and testing. And through this process, some theories are discarded while others are strengthened. But when a well-supported theory falls by the wayside, it is almost always because an alternative has been proposed which accounts for more facts and makes better predictions. For example, the replacement of Newtonian physics with Einstein's theory of relativity. In contrast, intelligent design is a less comprehensive alternative to evolutionary theory. While evolution relies upon detailed, well-defined process. Okay, we're not going to get into all of that. But what I'm asking you here is, has his scientific theory that he's posited been proven or disproven? Has it been proven or disproven?
Neither. It hasn't been proven nor disproven.
Okay, so you're okay. So let's stop right there. So this is an appeal to.
It's an appeal to nothing.
It's an appeal to authority here. You're saying that it exists just because he gives a mathematical formula that has not been proven scientifically, right?
No, I'm saying what he's done. What he's done is put a theory out there about
A
the
theory.
existence of. He put a theory out there about the existence of consciousness, which he says resides outside of reality, that created reality.
Okay, so
Via the conscious. But you won't let me. But you won't let me finish. So.
but we're speaking in circles here.
No, but
What
I'm trying to. In circles.
Okay, Ron. What I'm trying to understand here is this agency.
Yeah.
And the intent on intelligence, this consciousness. If there's a consciousness that exists outside of our reality, space, and time, that would mean there's agency there. Am I correct?
It doesn't necessarily have to mean agency. It doesn't have
to. What do you mean?
That.
It's a consciousness that had intent. That is agency. Here, let me give you the definition of agency in a theistic sense. Okay, agency. I'm going to give you agency. Excuse me. You can keep talking while I pull this up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he developed the mathematical models for what he called conscious agents. So almost by definition, if agent almost implies agency, right? It almost implies that. And what he says again is that these conscious agents, they fuse together to form everything that we see in our reality, in our world. It comes from these conscious agents, and these conscious agents develop not just things on the micro level, but also on the macro level. And everything that we see, even the whole process of evolution, is from these conscious agents. And so here's his challenge. This is the challenge that he faces, and that he readily admits, is that now how can he show from this mathematical model?
I've not read his paper. I have not read his paper.
Yeah,
I'm asking, why do you believe what he's saying to be true?
Yeah, I believe that again, from a scientific perspective.
Yeah.
I'm saying that scientifically, and you and I both agree with this, that at the Planck scales, everything breaks down, right?
Okay, you see, now you're trying to combine physics into something else, another agency that has not been proven. Physics is within our reality. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Does this agency that you said has a consciousness, an intelligent design, does it exist within this reality?
Yes.
Okay. Where is it at, and how can it be observed scientifically?
I mean,
okay, so you stupid as hell. See, not dumb as shit.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get you to understand that
I don't understand it without scientific evaluation.
No, again, Chris, I've tried to explain from the beginning his whole model from the beginning. Obviously, you need to go back and and read the paper, read his works. But what I'm saying is that he is taking the let's say the scientific, not the scientific, but he's taken the hypothetical stance that consciousness is the beginning of all things, and then that all our reality comes from that consciousness. And and so basically now he understands, and I agree with him. How do you prove this? Which is the questions you're asking. How do you
Okay,
prove
wait a
it?
minute. Okay, are you saying, did he say in his paper consciousness is the beginning of all things, or does science posit that consciousness is the beginning of all things?
No, he that's what he's saying.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah,
But we
because
can't
science.
prove this consciousness exists outside of time and space, can we?
No, you can't. Not yet. That's what he's working.
Not
He
yet, not
understands
yet.
that he understands that.
Not yet. It's like Jesus coming back, but not yet. He'll be back soon, but not yet. We can't prove it, but he'll be
It's not on the
back,
same
right?
level.
Yeah,
It's not on the same level. But
sure.
that's not unheard of, because most scientific theories in the beginning are not proven.
How is the scientific theory proven?
Yeah, through tests,
What are the three
through
tests?
making observations, making tests, making.
Okay, something tangible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, is this divine consciousness? Like I said, he's given us mathematic formulation, but is this tangible enough to sit up there and prove that something exists outside of our universe, time and space? He can't use physics because physics can only test things within this reality. This is why I say the intelligent design argument is just as flawed as the Bible.
No, Chris, he's working. Okay, you start with a mathematical model. So now
Yeah,
he's
this is an
working
appeal to
on
authority.
tests.
This is a big time appeal to authority, Ron.
No, I'm not appealing to authority. I'm just telling you what he's working on. It doesn't have to be Hoffman. It could be some other person. But the legitimacy behind what he's doing is the fact that he's a scientist. He's not a theologian who's making these assertions. He's a scientist. So most of the people
There
who
are
make these.
scientists that posit pseudo who pose pseudo claims. They exist.
Yeah, but Hoffman is a I would say a highly respected scientist in his field. He's
He
highly
probably
respected.
is, but he can have beliefs that he can't prove. No one's saying that a scientist can't have beliefs or believe in God.
I understand, but what I'm trying to point to you is the reasonableness of his theory.
Right.
And
But the thing
what you're
is,
saying, and what you're
his
saying is not
papers that
reasonable. You said it's not reasonable because there is no proof of it yet. I'm saying that you start with the theory and then you work towards the proof.
okay,
You
cool.
work
So
towards the
so
proof.
far, the proof doesn't validate this existence, right?
It does not. It does not. He he
Okay.
he has he has he has shown mathematically that these conscious agents can exist,
Okay.
and
He's shown
and then
mathematic.
how they fuse together to create these higher experiences, can go from tasting certain like chocolate or Kool-Aid or whatever,
Well,
all the
here's
way
the
up
thing.
to
If he's
all the way up
using
to higher
quantum
intelligence.
physics, if he's using quantum physics, we can clearly see that particles have an interconnectedness that exists within each other. Things like that cannot be explained would be considered scientific phenomena, not God of the gaps.
Yeah, he's not using quantum physics as you would think of it. What he's saying is that quantum physics, the laws of quantum physics, breaks down. He's saying
Yes,
that.
yes, yes, yes. We get that. We understand that,
So
right?
he's not
It's
using
not
he's not
infinite.
using
I
quantum
get it. It's
physics.
finite.
Yeah, he's not using quantum physics to explain consciousness like some scientists, some physicists are. Like it's a guy Penrose and these guys are saying that somehow at the quantum level, consciousness resides. He's saying that it's nothing to do with that. He's saying that consciousness is first. Penrose and a bunch of other scientists are saying that the reality is first, and then consciousness emerges from that reality. He's saying
First
the
question.
opposite.
First question. Steve the theorist says, can consciousness exist without a body?
Can consciousness exist without the body?
Yeah.
I, I, if you're asking me what I think versus what has been proven, it's not been proven. But if you're asking me what I think the answer is yes.
Okay, you asked me what I think. So it hasn't been proven, but you're gonna.
Yeah, I think it can exist outside.
Okay.
Let's face it. I mean, even Einstein said that E equals mc squared, right? Matter and energy are the same. And
So
we know from thermodynamics, energy can't be created nor destroyed in
okay.
thermodynamics.
So what I'm going to say here is simply, many times when people come at me with the Bible or the Quran or Vedas or the Egyptian Medu Neter or voodoo or any of these things, I
Hmm.
always sit up there and say, sometimes I don't like to call it God of the gaps. I just call it the God of epistemology. Because you
Hmm.
guys come with Hoffman's work or Sir Alan Gardner's work or King James' work or Muhammad and Bilal's work, and you say, see, these things prove God exists. But when we look at it in totality and we begin to look at it for ourselves, there's nothing observable to prove that God
Yeah.
exists, nor do we see the intent there to prove that God exists. Without a
Yeah.
shadow of a doubt, we can't see it.
No.
But epistemologically, we see it only within the text or only within what the writer is trying to prove. In this case, Mr. Hoffman here, who is a scientist, that he himself has not given us anything observable. He's given us a bunch of math, E equals mcgod. That's what he's given us so far. Nothing. He hasn't given us anything observable outside of consciousness. And at that, our consciousness only exists within this realm of time and space. And it's real easy for you all to say, oh, there's a consciousness that exists outside of time and space, because we really don't know what exists outside of time and space. So we're just going to say it's intelligent design.
No, I'm saying what exists outside of space time is consciousness. I agree with Hoffman that
Can this intelligent designer be manipulated?
no, not it's not as I
Explain a
explained
black
before.
hole, please.
Hang on for a second. As I
No, no, no,
explained
no, no,
before,
no. Hold on one second. You
Chris,
keep
let
going
me.
back to Matt Hoffman.
You're not letting me. I will answer every question, but
Sure.
but you can't. You ask yes no questions that sometimes have to be nuanced, right? You agree with that? So this what I call intelligent, what I call consciousness, as I stated in the beginning of of our discussion, is not. I don't ascribe it to being a deity that like the God of the Bible or the Torah or the Quran does not um, have human attributes. Does not come through,
It
reach
has
down
intelligence
and
as a
cause it.
human attribute, sir.
Maybe maybe our intelligence is an attribute of the consciousness. Maybe it's the other
See,
way around. Maybe it's
okay.
the other way around.
But
Maybe
see,
it's the other way around.
when I asked you about can this consciousness be manipulated,
I
you
said no.
said no. But
Right.
we know black holes do bend both space and time.
But so how does that negate the consciousness can
I didn't
reside
say it
outside
did.
of?
No, I asked you, can this consciousness be manipulated?
But Chris, black holes
Yes, they exist.
yes, of course, but bending light and things like that
No, it
it has
bends
nothing.
both space and time, and light
Yeah,
cannot escape.
yeah. I mean, black holes bend. Yeah, it can bend light. If light goes into a black hole, you cannot
And
escape.
it bends space and time. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. But so does a planet. A planet bends space time. I'm not sure what you're
Okay,
getting
then
at.
it can be then his its consciousness can be manipulated by guess what?
You,
Its
Chris.
own design.
Chris. Again, you're. These are all laws of physics that you're talking about. I just stated.
Exactly.
Well, I just stated. I just stated that.
Exactly.
I know, Chris, but
Physics. Hold
I'm
on.
not. I'm
It's
not.
the
I'm not.
laws of physics. Hold on. Let me say this. This is why I'm doing this here. All right. I did this to you. The reason why I'm doing this is to show you the only thing that exists is science, and science can break down our understanding of our universe better than this intelligent designer can.
But Chris,
We understand things in our universe better with science.
Chris,
Listen to you try to explain this
you're
intelligent designer.
you're acting as if I'm going against the laws of physics,
The
of
laws of
evolution. I'm
physics
not.
does
I'm not
not
going against it. I'm
listen.
not going
The
against it.
laws of physics proves that nothing exists outside of time and space.
It absolutely does not prove that. You're saying
Oh
that. It
goodness.
doesn't.
Oh my goodness.
Chris, we just stated, and you said you agreed
How do
with
we
it.
have a science? Listen, listen to what
Hang
I'm
on.
saying.
Chris,
You've been talking enough. Hold on. Be quiet for a second. Just be quiet for a second. Answer some questions here without mentioning Matt Hoffman's name or whatever this gentleman's name is here.
I've answered. I've tried to answer every question you asked.
I agree that you have tried to answer it, but
Yes.
just wait a second, because you're on here just explaining away all these different concepts. What is quantum physics?
Quantum physics, it's the physical laws at the subatomic or the quantum level, at this very, very small.
Based on our
atomic
reality,
level.
right?
Yeah, based on our reality, for sure.
Okay, so quantum physics only can prove what's within our reality, right?
I agree.
You agree?
Yes.
How do we prove something outside of that? What scientific method do we have that can prove something exists outside of reality, our reality? How do we prove that? That's what I'm asking you. Don't go back to Matt Hoffman. Tell me how you can do that. Don't throw your logic away now.
I'm not throwing my logic away. What I'm trying to explain, and I've explained to you, that you start with a theory, a mathematical model, and then from that mathematical model, you have to make some type of predictions, and then from those predictions, you have to figure out a test that will either falsify or prove that prediction. That's what his work is work. That's what he's working on.
So once again, it's epistemology. You're looking for
It's
sound
not
epistemology to prove some
science.
consciousness exists
It's
outside of
Chris.
outside of time and space. A
Chris.
mathematical formula. Here, let me break this down here. A mathematical formula does not prove anything exists outside of time and space. First thing we have to do is say it is an agency that exists. Two, it's going to be one, there's an agency that exists because it has a consciousness. Two, this consciousness decided to do what? Create. That shows intent. That means it's what? It probably has a body. You're trying to speak on this scientific consciousness that you don't prove exists. It's just another God of the gaps theory. That's it. That's why the first thing we learned about intelligent design, it tells you it's a pseudoscientific argument for the existence of God. It's simple.
Yeah. Again, what you're saying is that intelligent design is the way you defined it, the way you defined it at the beginning of the discussion, is not what hopefully that I'm proposing here based on Hoffman's work. That's not what I'm proposing.
Well, King James said God exists. Does God exist? Does the God of King James exist?
Well, to put Donald Hoffman on the same level with King James Bible, I think would be rather foolish, don't you?
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Why not? King James Bible says God existed.
Because I just told you Hoffman is using science to try to prove the existence of
But you just
consciousness
said
residing
earlier
outside.
that, okay, so what is observable here?
Chris, he hasn't done it yet. I mentioned that. How many times I
Okay,
mentioned
so it don't exist. It's no different than the King James Bible. It doesn't exist. He can't prove it.
Chris, you're not listening to me.
I'm listening to you. I just don't accept your argument.
You're trying to overtalk me. You don't have to accept it. I'm not trying to convince you to accept it one way or another. But what you're not understanding is that Hoffman is a scientist.
Hoffman. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you can't negate what he's saying. He's a scientist. What he's trying to prove.
He's a scientist that goes against his own scientific theory.
What do you mean going?
The scientific theory posits that you have to prove it.
That's what he's trying to do, Chris. I just told you that.
Okay, if he's a scientist, what has he given us that's observable that can be proved, that proves that this divine, this consciousness exists outside of time and space? He would have received a Nobel Peace Prize.
Of course, not a Peace Prize, but he would certainly have Nobel Prize in science, one of the scientific fields for sure. But what I'm saying, Chris, is that he is using science. He understands that people like you are going to ask these types of questions, and that with very, very good questions that you're asking. But he understands that you have to have scientific rigor to be able to answer, and proofs to be able to answer these questions.
Oh, I get it.
Otherwise,
Hold
he's
on.
just talking.
So
Why
I'm
don't you let him
supposed to
finish?
just take his word for it
No, you're
because
not.
he said
That's why he's
it,
doing the
right?
test. No, that's why he's doing the test. That's why he's doing the
What
modeling.
test? What
Chris,
test is he doing
Chris.
outside of time and space?
Chris, that's why he's doing the mathematical models to develop the tests, to make predictions, to do the test, to develop the tests. That's why he's doing these things. You're saying you're trying to put him in the same light as uh, any religious preacher or but he's not. He's not in the same level. Nobody would agree with that.
Hold on. Here's the thing. He is. He is the same. They
No, he's
always
not.
they always go to something that we cannot prove. And they'll say, "Hey, I'm doing the math." Did God did this intelligent design give him this mathematical equation? Yes or no?
No. The math is
How
the
does
math.
he know?
It's
Hold on.
it's the math of it's the math that we're
Listen, you're trying to
using
get ahead of the
every
argument
day.
now. All right. You're trying to get ahead of the argument by constantly appealing to Matt Hoffman's work here. All
Donald
right.
Hoffman.
Donald Hoffman. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right. Donald Hoffman's work. And I have not read his work. And once again,
I
I am not
understand.
a quantum physicist, but math does not prove that some damn divine agency called intelligent design it exists outside of time and space. We don't know what's there.
Again, because as you said, you're not familiar with his work. He's not trying to prove mathematically intelligent design. He's proving or trying to prove mathematically conscious agents and how these conscious agents confuse together and project into reality and project our reality. That's what
Okay.
he's
So
trying to prove.
are those conscious elements? Are they attributes of this divine intelligence?
Yes, they would be elements of
Can
yes,
consciousness
they would be
be
elements of the ultimate conscious. Yes, conscious
okay,
agents
cool.
would
Can
be.
consciousness be altered?
Can consciousness be altered?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I really understand that question. Can consciousness be altered?
Here. Okay. What is the particle experiment within quantum physics? Are you familiar with that?
You talking about the wave versus the
Yes.
particle?
Yes.
The slits.
Yes.
The
What
slip
happened with
slit.
that? Explain to everybody that. Explain that to everybody.
I'm not sure if I'm qualified to explain it. You explain it. And let's
Here,
go from
I'll
there.
break it down for you real quick,
Yes,
okay?
yes, do that.
We're gonna do the I'm gonna pull out the wave particle duality here, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. This is a simple concept found here in I'll pull it up on Wikipedia because that's a mode that we use here, right? That's a
Yeah,
medium.
that's fine. Yes.
All right. All right, so wave particle duality is the concept of quantum mechanics that fundamental entities of the universe, like photons and electrons, exhibit particle wave properties according to the experimental circumstances. It expresses the inability of the classical concepts such as particle or wave to fully describe the behavior of quantum objects. During the 19th and 20th centuries, the light was found to behave as a wave, then later was discovered to have a particle-like behavior, whereas electrons behave like particles in early experiments, then were later to discover to have wave-like behavior. The concept of duality arose to name these seeming contradictions here. All right. So what they were doing is they were discovering that the particles begin to act differently, and also they have begun to find out through quantum physics that if you look at them with a such as the CERN particle collider, they see they react differently through different tests, right? These particle elements, photons and electrons, they begin to act differently on their own. So what I'm asking you here, when I asked you, can this consciousness be manipulated? You said no, but I can show you through CERN that quantum physics, such as particles, photons, neutrons, at a subatomic and atomic level, can be manipulated with man science, with the science that we are creating, and we're going to be we use this science to do what? Help enhance our everyday lives by doing what? Manipulating things on a scientific level, on a quantum level. We are quantum now. We are atomic now. That's all I'm saying.
Okay,
so we can see that it can be manipulated. Are you saying that the particles at a quantum level are a form of consciousness? You said yes.
no,
And
I did not say that. I did not say that.
Okay, so it's not a form of
No,
consciousness?
I said that conscious agents
It's a
Conscious
conscious
agents,
agent.
yeah, they form everything that we see in reality. Doesn't mean that they are conscious.
What
I
is
don't
a
I don't think
conscious
I don't think
agent?
I don't think a conscious agent is a structure
A gift galley
that's
bird, that's
yeah
all.
it's no this is a okay
Let's-
you can say I'm galloping, but this is in Hoffman's paper. This is Hoffman. I'm trying to, again, I told you that I'm going to be pulling from Hoffman's work. So
you
his
should have
conscious
brought it
agents,
with you.
his conscious agents
Here,
are
I
this,
got it right here. Conscious
yeah,
agency. Here it is right
yeah.
here. Conscious agency refers to the subjective feeling of being the originator and controller of one's own actions. Is this what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about his definition of a conscious agent, not agency.
Agent. Okay, so let's just pull up
Yeah.
conscious agent. Okay. Conscious agents. I'll just pull up Hoffman's work, the origin. In Donald Hoffman's theory of conscious realism, this is a theory, as you said, the world is composed of conscious agents and their experiences, not physical particles and fields. So he's denying quantum physics right here.
No,
He
he's not.
proposes that our perceptions are not direct representations of reality, but rather interfaces designed for survival, much like a desktop interface. Conscious agents are thought to make choices based on their conscious experiences, interact with the world. Excuse me, let me repeat this. Conscious agents are thought to make choices based on their conscious experiences, interact with the world based on those choices, and potentially possess free will and a goal-directed behavior. Maybe Neo needs, maybe somebody, never mind. That's for a debate tonight. So this is his theory. This, once again, has not been proven.
Yeah, I've said that all along. It hasn't been
And
proven.
then
But now,
version
yeah,
of it, your version of intelligent design does not exist then. It's just a concept.
of course it's a concept. It's like every belief, every religious belief, and every belief is a concept.
I agree.
So that's not earth shattering. It's a concept. I never tried to. I never said it wasn't. I always started with this is my concept.
Well, guess what? So far, we can agree that the intelligent designer has not been proven today in 1 hour on this channel. You haven't given me anything observable to prove that it exists. You just been giving me a lot of epistemology based on Donald Hoffman's work, which you did not even present
But it's
yourself.
different.
You
But it's
said, oh,
different.
it's not different because earlier today, and I think you're being a bit dishonest. I'm going to explain why. Earlier today on the platform around 6 o'clock this morning, you stated that you would come prepared. Yes, you're articulate. I agree with that. Yes, you are intelligent and you do understand his work, but you said you would come prepared. And the questions that I'm asking you today are actually disproving Donald Hoffman's work.
I'm not disproving his work.
I'm disproving his work. There are flaws in intelligence.
I say this with all due respect, Chris. I don't think that you're capable of disproving Hoffman's work.
Oh, okay. So because I'm not a scientist, you do know I'm an engineer. Hold on, you do know I'm an engineer, right?
Yeah,
I might not be a scientist. I might not be a scientist like Donald Hoffman, but I do understand physics at certain levels.
Yeah, but this is
not maybe on the quantum scale, but
yeah,
I do.
This is really as we say in the street, this is really deep, man. This is not engineering. I'm an engineer also.
Doesn't mean that it exists. It's really deep. The Bible is really deep.
Chris, I'm an engineer too. So
really the emerald tablets are really deep.
Yeah.
This is just a scientist. This is just, listen to me, man. This is just a scientist proposing something that you feel is true.
Yes, but what I'm saying is you're saying that you've debunked it. I'm saying that I don't. Again, with all due respect, because Chris, I have respect for you. I have respect for your intelligence and for your articulation. But I don't think that you're capable of debunking Hoffman's work.
Okay, once again, has Hoffman given you anything tangible to look at?
Other than his mathematical models, no, but that's what he's working on.
Does that mathematical prove intelligent design exists outside of?
No, his mathematical model is not trying to prove intelligent design. His mathematical model is geared towards conscious agents, not intelligent design. As I mentioned before, how this whole thing, from his perspective, is started, and again, I agree with it, is that he starts with the question, is what is beyond Planck scale? What is there beyond the playing
Well,
scale?
if
So
you
all the physics break down.
don't like what you see over here, go to a channel and do something with your time. You're banned. Okay, go ahead. Thanks for the view. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, you over here watching us and criticizing us at the same time. I say this on my channel, man, fuck you. Go on about your business. All right, go ahead, brother. Continue to speak.
Yeah. So he starts with the hypothesis that at Planck scales, beyond Planck scales, consciousness exists outside of time and space, because space time.
Said. That's why I keep trying to get you to understand, Ron. He said. He did not prove it. He said it. Moses said God gave him the law. Jesus said he was the son of God. Those are just claims. You have to prove those claims to be true. And this mathematical formula that he gave does not prove that it's true. Here, Eric Graham says, just Donald Hoffman, excuse me. I keep saying Matt Hoffman. I'm thinking about an actor, excuse me. He says, does he have any empirical evidence?
He has no empirical evidence for conscious agents. He just has his mathematical models at the moment.
Jesus Christ.
But his mathematical models describe how conscious agents can fuse together to project things that we see in our reality. Now the question is, this is the next part of it, making predictions and then testing those theories to try to falsify and or prove them. That's the next step. That's where he's at. He and his team are at.
My question to you. All right, is this the only model that you've gone with when it comes to intelligent design?
I think it's the best. I think it's the best one.
It's the best model as it pertains to intelligent design
for me. Now Hoffman doesn't even talk about intelligent design. He talks more about spirituality. He says that
of course he does. Of course. I hear that layered all throughout this. Empirical data.
I'm not sure.
Agency doesn't exist. Intent doesn't.
I'm not sure what the laughter is for.
But there's an intelligent design.
I'm not sure what the laughter is for. He says what he's doing. What he's doing is trying to submerge or merge science and spirituality. And in fact, he even says that maybe the ancient spiritual traditions had it correct. But again,
now I gotta dismiss him now. Hold on.
I know, but let me finish.
I got you.
No,
I got you. I got you. This is I got you. Watch this, because this is the argument when they say, when you have theists who try to sit up there and say quantum physics proves God. Right? This is what they do. And it was through that particle wave reactor, when humans began to look at particles at a subatomic level, and they would see that the particle will begin to change based on how they are viewing it. Right? And they would say, look, it's changing. It's proving to us that there's a consciousness that exists here within this particle, because when we look at it, it turns itself into something else when we begin to look at it. And when we stop looking at it, it goes back to an original state. That's what they're saying in that.
Oh.
And yes, yes.
I think that
yes.
So again,
hold on. Let me finish. Hold on. You can be quiet for a second. So what they tried to do, what theists tried to do, is say, see, this proves to us that there's intelligent design or a divine consciousness that exists. And then they'll go and try and find a Bible verse by saying something like, when Jesus said, if your faith be bigger than a grain, bigger than, you can move a damn mountain. And it's all based on quantum physics. It's nothing but God of the gaps. That's all it is.
So
instead of just saying, hold on, stop for a minute. You can take a deep breath, right? Instead of just saying that this is an unexplainable scientific phenomena, what a theist would do is grab the information and interpret it to fit his or her agenda. That's it. It's just scientific phenomena. That's it.
Yeah.
Some things cannot be
Yeah.
explained.
So
That
can I?
doesn't give a theist a right to, or a creationist such as yourself,
Yeah.
to deduce it to your meaning of faith, or
Yeah.
intelligent design, because that's what you're doing. You're deducing it. You're reducing it to something smaller
Yeah.
with these faith claims of you guys.
Yeah. So let me. Are you through?
You're
Yeah.
gonna ask me, am I through? I think this argument is through.
No,
But go
you've
ahead.
given. Yeah, you've given a long, you know, spiel there. So I'm trying to collect.
Spill.
Yeah, you gave a long spiel. But so now let me let me reply. First of all, Hoffman. Well, let me start with myself.
Austin,
First of
come
all,
on, what you got? Your
wait,
Messiah. Go
wait,
ahead.
hang on. Chris,
You got it.
I was quiet for all of five
You've
to
been
maybe
interrupting
five to
every
eight
time I
minutes.
spoke.
So
But
so
go
now
ahead.
let me talk. So um, you have not you've not seen me open the Bible, give you any biblical verses or anything in this discussion. I've tried to appeal to science. That this guy is a scientist and he's working to try to prove the existence of these conscious agents, and thereby proving the existence of consciousness outside space time. That's what that's a scientific argument and a mathematical argument that I've given you, not an argument from any type of religious text. I've not used the Bible. I've not used the Quran. I've not used the Torah, the Tanakh once in our discussion.
I never said that you did.
I understand, but you keep appealing to you keep conflating what I'm talking about with scripture, with religious scripture. So that's that you have to take that off the table. What I'm saying is that, and again, yes, I am using Hoffman's work because his work is well understood within the realms of those who study this type of stuff. That well, it's not well understood by you or maybe others on this platform. That's why I strongly recommend that you go back and read his works and then listen to his presentations. But regardless of that, he is using science to trying to use science or is using mathematical modeling to his first attempt at proving conscious agents, and then from there make predictions after he has his models that maybe that have to be tested. He says, look,
Well, one of the things he's also stated.
if I cannot develop a prediction and from my model and then testing from there, I said, I'm just talking, and I'm just talking. He
Okay,
he
so
he agrees with you, Chris. He agrees with you
no,
along
I
those
don't
lines.
agree with anything Donald Hoffman is saying. As a
No,
matter
I'm
of
saying
fact, one of the
agrees with
biggest
you.
claims I've ever heard someone say is reality is an illusion. Do you agree with that?
I mean, it depends on what you mean by an illusion. I mean,
Donald Hoffman, don't not
yeah,
me. Donald Hoffman states that reality is an illusion.
yeah, yes, I'm saying. So
Do
but
you
I understand
believe that?
why. I understand why he says that.
No, no, no. I'm asking you, do you believe that?
I do believe that
So,
reality
okay. So,
is
what
an
is the
illusion
definition?
because,
Okay, let me turn my
and
camera on.
that's
What is the
proven.
definition of reality?
Reality is that which is real.
What that which is real, and what is an illusion?
Is that which we think is real, but not.
What we think is real, but is
But it's
not.
something. But it's something else.
Okay, so how can both fit in the same space?
And this is again. I'm going back to Hoffman's work again. That's why I say you really have to. You really. I think you would be enlightened if you go back and read Hoffman's work.
Now we're
But
going
but
into
now let me.
religion.
I know. But let me
That's what I'm
answer the
saying.
question.
That's
You won't
what
let me
most
answer.
religious fanatics say. If you come
You won't
into
let me.
this religion and understanding right here,
Chris.
you're gonna
Chris.
be enlightened.
Chris,
That's
you won't let me
all.
explain. So why are you over talking me? Let me explain. You asked me a question. Let me explain.
No, I didn't
So
ask you a
here's the
question
explanation.
at
Yes, you
all.
did. You said how can illusion and reality be
Yeah,
one and the same?
and your
I'm getting
rebuttal
ready.
was, I think if you come over here, you'll be enlightened, and that's when
No,
I said that's
I
what
said
most
no. I
religious
said if you read his
fanatics
work,
say.
I said if you read Hoffman's work, you will be enlightened. But let me explain why this is the way it is. He says that evolution did not equip any of us to know the truth about reality. and he's run
That's
he's run he's
philosophy,
run
man.
he's run game theory, evolutionary game theory models,
I'm
et
sorry.
cetera,
I'm sorry. No,
this
I'm
to
sorry.
prove this.
Excuse me. Evolution itself helped us deal with reality.
Reality, but
Everything
not the
in the wrong
truth.
spectrum helped us deal with reality. We
But
were
not the
able
truth.
to see how every time I talk, you speak. Here, this is all I have to do right here. Evolution helped humanity deal with its objective reality around it. Humans began to evolve. We began to learn how to make tools, make fire, learn how to write, read, communicate with one another. That's evolution. So it helped us deal with our objective reality, not a subjective reality. Humans evolved as times changed. What you're proposing to me by Donald Hoffman is nothing but a lot of flim flam philosophy, God of the gaps.
Why?
Simple.
Chris, again, it's
Yes,
amazing to me
again.
that you're saying that. Amazing that you're saying that that Hoffman is somehow flim flamming. This is, Chris. Honestly, nobody would agree with you.
You know
Nobody
what?
would agree.
And that's why I said it's an appeal to authority.
Let me
It's one of the
explain.
what you've been doing on here is one of the
Let me
strongest appeals to authority I've ever seen.
let
You're
me
saying just
explain.
because he's a scientist, he's right, but yet he hasn't proved one fucking thing about intelligent design.
I'm not saying that he's right. I'm saying that he's in the process of trying to prove this. I'm not saying he's right. I don't know that he's right
Prove it,
until it's proven.
just like the Christians are still trying to prove Jesus exists.
No,
Just like
the
Muslims
Christians,
are still trying to
it's
prove
different. It's different.
Muhammad
The
was a
Christians,
prophet and existed. Just like everybody else proves
no,
their God existed.
no.
Epistemologically, they all are trying to prove their
They're not.
stance on this divine
They're
consciousness
not.
that exists outside of our time, space, and reality.
They're
It's the
not.
same thing.
The Christians, the Muslims, the Jews, they all say that they believe
You
that.
believe.
No. I'm saying that this is based off
You're
of.
accepting something without any facts,
I said that I
Ron.
agree with this. No, I'm not accepting it on fact. I'm
You
saying
agree
I
with
agree
his
with this
premise.
approach.
Exactly.
I do
You
agree.
agree
I
with
agree
this
with it.
premise? No, you
I
agree
agree
with
with it.
this premise without
I
any
agree.
evidence or empirical data.
I agree because I think he's taking the right approach.
The right approach. Christians think they're taking the right approach.
But they're not using science. He's using science.
He can't use science to prove it because there is no science that can prove that a God exists.
Chris, he is starting with mathematical models,
Oh
right?
shit. Oh God, more
What
God.
what where what mathematical models come out of Christianity
Oh my God.
or Islam or Hebrewism or Judaism? What mathematical models come out of
Just
those?
because somebody uses math, that gives them the right to say, hey, I'm using math to prove God. What divine fucking formula exists that
Again,
proves something exists outside of our time in reality
again,
here?
he's not trying to use math to prove God. He's trying to use math to prove the existence of conscious agents.
Oh God. Oh God.
I mean, you again. that's why I say I don't.
Like I said,
There's no way for you to debunk. There's
hold on,
no
hold on,
way, with all due respect, to
hold on.
debunk
Once again,
Donald
that
Hoffman.
is subjective. That is not objective. That is subjective. And once again, if you're dealing with conscious agents inside our reality, why are you talking about a divine intelligence outside of our reality? It seems like you're just running back and forth because you really have no real leg to stand on here.
No, Chris. Again, everything.
How does something within our reality prove something exists outside of time and space, out of our reality? Just explain it.
Again,
I'm gonna go on mute and let you do that.
This is what Hoffman is proposing in his theory. If you go back and you take a look at his work, Fusions of Consciousness, he starts with a mathematical model that describes these conscious agents, and then from these how these conscious agents fuse together to cause experiences, or as he would propose, create reality. And then from there, you have to make some type of predictions. Like how do these conscious agents, how do they fuse together to perhaps create our laws of gravity? Or how do they describe the constancy of the speed of light? Or how do they give us the evolutionary models that we subscribe to that work perfectly well in this reality. Those are the things that he has to be able to prove from his model. He has to be able to prove those
Math
things.
added up.
Say what?
Has the math added up?
Yes, his math so far, nobody has debunked it.
Nobody has. So this proves intelligent design exists, right?
I'm not saying, Chris, again, I'm not saying that
We're
this
talking
proves
about, what's the name of this conversation here?
Ron versus Chris versus Chris MVP versus Ron. Does God exist?
Okay, why are you talking to me? Oh boy. Okay. All right. You know what, Ron? It's going on 1 minute and 30 minutes. The one thing I do want to do is I want to thank you for coming by and giving us your God of Math and your Messiah, Donald Hoffman, teaching us him. I want you to come on back another time because this math ain't mathing, brother.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for a fun conversation.
Well, I appreciate it.
Because it was truly a gish gallop here, and a lot of flim flam in here.
Yeah,
so I do want to thank you. I was enlightened by this conversation.
Yeah,
that I will look over his works.
Yes, yes, please do.
And I will bring you back, and we can have a conversation here. Okay?
Yeah. Please look at his work, and then we can have maybe a better discussion, because what I would like to see is that you deal directly with his work to try to, as you say, debunk it. Because I've
already debunked it.
Chris,
he hasn't proved.
Chris,
he's given us no empirical data that this God exists. You're giving me a fucking chalkboard equation and saying this math proves that God exists or this consciousness exists.
I would respectfully say that outside of this discussion, when you say that you debunk him, I would not go outside of this chat room, outside of your program, and say that, hey, guess what? I debunked Donald Hoffman's.
There's nothing to debunk.
Consciousness theory.
Well, first of all,
I debunked his theory. I debunked Donald Hoffman's theory.
Ron, there's nothing to debunk because he hasn't proved anything.
Okay.
There's nothing to debunk.
And definitely,
all I can honestly say is right now you still. To me, you're classified no differently than a Christian, Muslim, Hinduist, or anybody else who tries to say that something exists outside of our reality. Other than that, your God or your intelligent designer, the theory based on Donald Hoffman's work and your own understanding is quite flawed. It's flawed because when I asked you, does this intelligent designer have an intent? You said no. Then why is he an intelligent designer? Intelligence means it designs something. I didn't get a chance to get into you about pause. That's the wrong thing to say. I didn't get a chance to get at you about evolution and how intelligent design is flawed there. And it seems to me that you're just appealing to Donald Hoffman's work, which I have not read over, which I will be reading over this weekend, and you have not presented a good case for it. But hey, he's not a mathematical messiah trying to prove something outside of time and space exists.
I understand that this seems incredulous to you as a person who believes purely in science, that everything has to be proven. And I agree with it. If Hoffman would agree with you, Hoffman would agree that everything has to be proven by science, the scientific method, which is what he's working towards. But in any case, first things first. If you go back and read his work and try to understand and truly try to understand what he's saying,
I think agents don't exist. By the way,
I think that you said it's a pseudo claim.
It's a pseudo.
But you're not saying that Hoffman is a pseudo, right?
If he believes that doesn't exist, yes, it's pseudoscientific. Falls into the category of pseudoscientific. Yes.
Okay. So you're saying Donald Hoffman is a pseudoscientist then?
No, I'm saying that he's making a pseudoscientific claim about conscious agents.
Oh, okay. Well, in any case, again, I think that if you try to understand, you and the audience try to understand his work, I think you will come to a different conclusion.
Yeah, that the intelligent design is flawed.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I can't. Again, I'm not trying to convince you of the validity of intelligent design or Christianity or anything, or even atheism, even your perspectives. I'm not trying to convince you that atheism is wrong. I'm just saying that you asked me why I believe it, and I tried to give you a cogent argument for it. And you reject it because you reject.
I reject it because it cannot be proven, sustained. It's not
Yeah.
validated. I have no empirical evidence on it. There's no scientific evaluation that has come to a conclusion saying that the
Yeah.
God or this is intelligent design exists.
Mhm.
Some of the theories that we have, including the Big Bang, all start at a point of singularity. We talk about the evolution of mankind, but we do not talk about intelligent design until it can be proven. When you're dealing with the field of science, when you're dealing with science, it has to be proven in order to be validated and sustained, in order for everybody to come to a conclusion that intelligent design does exist.
No, I agree, and this is Hoffman would agree with you. It has to be validated.
Did he validate it?
This is what he's working on, the validation.
Well, when he validates it, I want you to come on here. I want you to wave your flags around when Matt Hoffman is your new messiah and say, intelligent design exists. Outside of that, you know how humans are created? Man and woman getting together and some bodies bumping. Ron, I want to thank you for coming on by today, brother. I had
appreciate it
with you, man. I don't want to take too much long on here. I'm having a conversation. Guys, it's going on a minute and 30 minutes. I want to get ready to watch Neo debate over there at Solar Vision. Hey, guys, do me a favor. Hit that like button if you guys like what you heard or what you saw. I'm only going to go a minute and 31, probably an hour and 30 minutes every single time I have these debates. I got a line of people that want to debate this. As you guys can see, the God of math or intelligent design does not exist. There was a lot of flim flam and foolery going on over here with Donald Hoffman's works. We'll probably be looking over some of these works, and this brother is more than welcome to come back anytime he wants to. Once again, conscious agents and pseudoscientific conscious agents don't even fucking exist. They don't. All right, it don't exist. There's no proof that they exist. He doesn't want to deal with that because quantum physics deals with things at a subatomic and atomic level. What can get smaller than that, right? I guess there's these conscious elements, agents that just exist out there, right? A lot of flim flam going on over here. Hey guys, support the channel. Do me a favor, support the channel by hitting the like button or donating to that Cash App. Donating to that Cash App. Your brother do like the money. I do like donations. It allows me to go and get me some good dinner tonight. With that being said, guys, I'm going to be over there on Solar Vision Debate League live watching the Neo X and Brother Ron debate. With that being said, guys, I want to say peace and y'all have a great night.